Good afternoon. Thank you for joining the Family Partnership Council today. All of our members are here, and any of you that may be viewing this through the portal, we're so glad that you joined us in this September 10th meeting. And it's really hard to believe it's already September the 10th as I keep looking at that screen. But here we are, and we have lots of information today that is very informative, and we have great guest speakers. And so I just want to thank all of our speakers, and I want to thank all of you that are attending. I just want to review our purpose before we get started. The Family Partnership Council. There we go. I'm sorry. It was just a little slow right there. So our purpose, and who is the Kentucky Family Partnership Council? This council serves in an advisory role to the Kentucky Department of Education and provides input regarding topics of interest to families, such as way that families and communities can assist schools in ensuring that the achievement level of all students is increased. And just a reminder, our council sets our agenda with the topics of interest that they request. And I want to take a moment to welcome our newest member, which is Jeremy Cole. This is his first meeting with us today. We're glad to have him. He is representing the Kentucky Association of School Councils, or KASC. So we're delighted to have Jeremy. I also want to remind advisory council members, just please ensure that your video is streaming and that you are visible during the duration of the meeting. Your microphone should be muted when you are not speaking. But just remember, all discussions must be available to the public, so make sure your mic is unmuted when you are speaking. And at this time, I'm going to turn to Leslie Spears for roll call. Leslie?
Thank you, Marcia. Sorry.
You're welcome.
So I'm going to do roll call. Amy Nickerson.
Here.
Ashley Bruce. Autumn Nagel. Brittany Faulkner. Jeremy Cole.
Here.
Laura Beard. Leah Markham.
Here.
Okay, thanks. Liz Delaney. Melissa Goins. Rhonda Logsdon.
I hope all is well.
Thank you. Stephanie Barker.
Here.
And Tara Trucker.
Here.
Thank you all. Can I hand this back over to the chair, Van Hook, and she was going to call for the approval of the May 21st minutes.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you for joining us all today, all of you today. I just want to remind you that the minutes for our May 21st meeting were attached to the calendar invite for today's meeting. They're also in the chat box. So if you would, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes to look over those, if you would, and then I will call for a motion and a second and an approval. So I'm going to pause just for a brief moment. I know that's a pretty brief moment, but I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion to approve. If you would come off mute and if I could have a motion.
Motion to approve.
And a second, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor, just you can come off together and say yay.
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 Yay. Any opposed? Thank you. Those minutes for May 21st are approved. Commissioner Fletcher is joining us today. I'm not sure if he's yet on screen or if he's joined just yet. If we'd love to have an opportunity for him to speak. If he's not here yet, there he is. Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We've just gotten through the business part, Commissioner. We'd love for you to take an opportunity to address the council members with any updates you might have. So the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And again, I want to start service to be a part of this committee. We're so thankful to have our input for so many council members, especially our Family Partnership Council. When we talk about Family Partnership Council, I think one of the key updates I need to talk to you a little bit about, and you'll probably hear more about this later on, but is our new accountability model. We are spending a lot of time. We've gone through 9 town halls, several surveys, a lot of input from our Kentucky United Learn Council, who has helped to guide this work to come in at an accountability model which addresses all the federal requirements on one side, but also has opened the local accountability piece, whereas we're requiring districts to communicate, to ask input from legislators, from their government officials, other local government officials, from their parents, from their students, from their teachers, to say, what exactly makes this district so special? But also too, when they walk across the stage and they get a diploma from our high school, what exactly does that mean? And many of you have probably been a part of the Portrait of the Learner process that districts have used to develop some key indicators and competencies for students as it relates to collaboration, communication, global citizenship, or even things like a lifelong learner. There's a lot of different competencies, and those look very different when you go from district to district. But at the end of the day, we want our parents, we want our students, we want our community members to have an input on what they expect from their local schools. I'll give you a quick example. Logan County. If anybody in here from Logan County, I really admire they have a 4-pillar system in their local accountability model. Talks about student achievement, talks about growth, student growth. Also about readiness, students having making sure they have their industry certifications, dual credit opportunities, meeting college benchmarks, things of that nature. But their 4th deals with student well-being, and their community asked for a certain indicator that dealt with involvement of students, student involvement, if you will, because, for example, what percentage of our students are involved in band, or possibly a drama production, or even maybe the baseball team, or JROTC, or the academic team? So, and the reason behind that is, first, this shows that if students are actively involved in their schools outside of their classroom, then they have a better opportunity, they have a more higher probability of being successful once they leave our 4 walls. Their community in Logan County recognized that, and actually they built an improvement plan on how can they make sure students are involved outside of the regular classroom time. Now, that also involves a lot of what does a transportation look like for that? How do you make sure kids have this opportunity? But again, that's not a paper pencil test. That's something that the local community came up with, that they wanted to see some improvement for student data. You have other districts that do things such as fiscal management, not just student level data, but also too, what type of, how do we spend our money? What does that dashboard look like? We have districts that are doing those type of things too, a part of their local accountability model. And the reason why I bring that up to you now is, if you haven't seen our accountability model, we are, after going through 9 town halls, countless survey input numbers, and we are going to our legislators, say, this is where we are with local accountability, with our state accountability, and this is what we'd like for it to look like moving forward. And we do have a session coming up in January in hopes of being able to have this approved and moving forward. But again, one of the key foundational pieces of the new accountability model is the local accountability piece that requires input from parents, from students, from community members and leaders across the district, to make sure that you're getting the products you expect from your high schools, from your middle schools, and your elementary schools. Another item I'll bring up to you that maybe it's been in the news a lot, is Senate Bill 181, and that's the traceable communication. I've been a part of some conversations with superintendents and other organizations, and I know that this has caused some, I'll say, some headache as far as how it's implemented. We have been working with other groups, and we've taken a list of suggestions into Senator Titchener of how do we improve Senate Bill 181, so to make sure that we're making sure that parents are protected and making sure that our students are protected, but also to make things such as maybe the ag group. How do they make sure that they can do a traceable communication that fits the needs of the club as well as the district? And we have other things that are happening, like some of our teachers have businesses outside of the school day, and maybe they're a hairdresser, and maybe they have students that come to them for that, or maybe they own. We have one district where a person owns a roller skating rink, and they have students that work for them. So how do they handle those type of issues? So again, getting input from different groups across, we've taken that to Senator Titchener, who has been listening. And I do look for an amendment to come up in the January session, in our 2026 session about Senate Bill 1. Again, a lot of things that you're going to see from the everything that you should see from the targeted education is really built on 3 pillars, and that came from our work with the Kentucky United We Learn Council. The very first part is vibrant learning. We want to make sure students are having opportunities that are in the classroom that are relevant, that are meaningful to the student, that give them joy in the classroom, and we want those vibrant learning experiences to expand. That is another pillar, if you will, of our new accountability model that we have as a part of this. Also to innovation. What does it look like for accountability? Not just a paper pencil test, but how are districts measuring students' communication skills, collaboration skills, and things of that nature. And then finally, collaboration. As I mentioned before, everything that we do, we want to make sure that we're collaborating with across districts, but also within our local communities to make sure we're getting the products. And when I say product, we want to make sure we have student outcomes that are the expectation for local districts. So again, a lot of things that we're building, moving forward on, but you can see those 3 pillars kind of woven in to everything that we're doing. So that's my update, and I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks for those updates. And it's wonderful to hear about the collaboration and just the vibrant learning and the innovation. And we know there's many, many other examples that could be shared. And I love the collaboration of this council as well, because they really are a very active group and speak. And so we are just always delighted to have you come give us some updates as well. You're welcome at any and every meeting that we have.
Thank you so much.
So at this point in time, I'm going to introduce our first topic, which the Commissioner did talk about just a little bit. This is the 2004-2029 Strategic Plan United We Learn update, and I'm going to turn it over to Karen Dodd and Susan Strange.
Thank you, Marcia. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Karen Dodd, Chief Performance Officer, and I do have with me Susan Strange, who's my Strategic Plan Project Manager. There should be one slide right before. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You got it.
Okay.
My bad. So today I've got a couple things that we want to go through with you. First of all, we just want to inform you about what KDE's strategic plan looks like. We're just going to go through that at a very high level. Then I want to help you understand how our plan connects to the United We Learn work. And then finally, we have an ask of you at the very end. So as Commissioner Fletcher just mentioned, United We Learn is our vision, and he talked about the 3 pillars. So I'm not going to reiterate all of that, but our mission is to create broad partnerships to provide leadership and support to ensure success for every student. And when we think about partnerships, really our advisory groups are a huge part of that partnership. And I really feel that the Family Partnership Advisory Group is one of the most important, because you are a group that we don't get to speak to a whole lot. And so I really appreciate having the time to talk to all of you and to hear from all of you. Not just to give you information, but it's really important for us to get information from you as well. And then finally, our core values, equity, student success, collaboration, integrity, and innovation. And you'll see that throughout our plan, how all of that plays in. And when we talk about our core values, we're really talking about how those of us at KDE what should drive us. Our core values are really what how we behave. So if we really believe that student success and collaboration are core values for us, then anybody should be able to see that we behave in a way that exemplifies that. On the next slide, those are the three pillars or the three big ideas that Dr. Fletcher talked about. So vibrant learning, encouraging innovation, and creating a bold new future through collaboration. On the next slide, we're going to talk again very high level about the objectives that we have in our strategic plan. So we have a total of 8. 5 of those are on the customer or stakeholder side. You can think of these as the more outward facing objectives, and we're going to dive into each of those briefly. On the other side, we have operational objectives, and we're not going to go too into this. These are very internal to KDE, so improving customer satisfaction, all of our advisory groups, all of our educators, students, we want to know that we are doing the job that you want us to do. So we do measure that satisfaction level, and we do that through some surveys. We also want to improve organizational process awareness. Again, this is internal, but how well do we work together? How well do we follow processes that are in place? And then improve those on a regular basis. So anytime that we see that there is any kind of dissatisfaction, which comes largely from our customer satisfaction surveys, we do our best to improve in those areas. And then finally, on the operational side, building leadership capacity. This is just wanting every person in KDE to feel like they are a leader for the work that they do, because we know that as our customers, when you call KDE, you expect the person that you're talking to know everything about what the problem that you're having and to be able to resolve that for you. And so we really want to ensure that everyone in KDE feels that ownership and is working on your behalf to get problems solved. We can go on to the next slide.
Okay, so our first goal is reimagining assessment and accountability. And as Dr. Fletcher already talked about, the new assessment and accountability system is what this goal is all about. So we're going to establish an accountability model that includes vibrant learning, making it meaningful and useful for all of our learners. Under that, we have key performance indicators, and these indicators just let us know if we're pushing on this goal. So some of the indicators that we're looking at for this goal are to increase the percentage of districts at each stage of local accountability system implementation, portrait of a learner creation, and then vibrant learning experiences development within that district. And we're looking at 3 areas: starting, spreading, and sustaining. And then we also have strategies underneath each of these goals, and the strategies are teams that we bring together to try to attack it. So our strategies for this one are to co-create an accountability system through an inclusive, feedback-driven process. And we've actually presented on this to you all before. We've brought surveys to the community regarding our new assessment and accountability model. We've worked with the Cool Council to build this along with outside external partners. So we've really co-created this model through town halls and feedback and engagement from the greater part of the Commonwealth. Another strategy is to elevate vibrant learning experiences. So we're looking at how we can bring those into all of the districts. How can we elevate them? How can we incorporate them into everyday learning for the students? And then support their districts in developing their local accountability system, which is a huge part of the new accountability system that we're driving, and trying to help them foster collaboration within their communities to create that local accountability system.
And just to point out, this particular goal, thank you, this particular goal is really where we come together between, KDE, what we're doing in our plan, and the Kentucky United We Learn Council. This was their baby. They're the ones we collaborated with them. They co-created with us the framework that we have today. So keep that in mind, because that's going to come back to the ask at the end. Our next goal is around chronic absenteeism, reducing chronic absenteeism. So of course, the goal is to reduce what our current rate is 28%, and this fall, I guess next month, I think, or a couple months away, we should get the results and know exactly what our rate is for 2025. But ultimately, by 2029, we want to be at 15%. I'll share with you that before the pandemic, our rate was between 18% was our chronic absenteeism rate. With the pandemic, we had a couple years where we did not measure because we just looked at it differently. Obviously, kids were not going into school, so we couldn't use the average daily attendance that we typically used. We had to change and really start looking at engagement. So we didn't have a number for the 20 school year 20, 21, 22. I think that's right. But then we picked it back up again, and we saw that those chronic absenteeism rates really skyrocketed. I believe it was in 23 where we had a high of about 30% of chronic absenteeism across the state. So we're really looking to get back to below those pandemic rates. So 15%. Is an aggressive goal for reducing chronic absenteeism, but we do have some strategies in place that you can see here. Expanding opportunities for vibrant learning experiences. So just as we've been talking about with our vision and with the new accountability model, vibrant learning is a huge part of all of that. And so we're really hopeful that if we change what it looks like in the classroom, that students will want to be engaged, they'll want to be there, they'll want to come to school. We also are looking to empower educators to support at-risk students. So there are lots of telltale signs that tell us if a student is at risk for dropping out or things. And a lot of times that comes with chronic absenteeism. So how do we help those kids and keep them engaged? And then finally, engage in proactive communication with family and community. You may have seen some of the billboards that we have around. We've got commercial ads, TV ads. We have posters on buses, inside buses, outside of buses, on bus stops. It's everywhere. Rupp Arena and the Yum Center have on their screens this whole campaign around reducing chronic absenteeism. It's a really big thing. We know, we're not going to meet any of these goals if we don't have kids attending school. So this is really a very important goal that we have. Can go on to the next slide.
So our third goal is to improve early literacy. We want to increase the third grade Kentucky Summative Assessment reading proficiency from 47% in 2024 to 60% by 2029. And again, as Karen said earlier, we should have the new number from last school year, probably in a month or two, that we can update with our goal. Our key performance indicators on that is to decrease third grade novice in reading. We want to increase the number of the educators participating in our Kentucky Reading Academies or the LETRS program. We want a reduction in the need for reading improvement plans as students make accelerated progress toward reading proficiency. We want an increase in the implementation of early literacy screening assessments, and then an increase in the implementation of the literacy diagnostics. So we're working with the Office of Teaching and Learning, the Office of Continuous Improvement and Support, under these strategies to attack this goal. So one of the strategies is to align vibrant learning experiences. Again, you're going to see this as a through line through most of these, to the Kentucky academic standards for reading and writing. We want to support that high quality literacy instruction and professional learning. We want to support evidence-based literacy curriculum and instructional resources, and then provide those targeted literacy support and intervention for those students that aren't quite there yet or at risk of not being on grade level. On the next slide, you're going to see improve early numeracy, and this one is very similar. We're increasing that third grade Kentucky State Assessment mathematics proficiency from 43% in 2024 to 55% by 2029. Again, some of the key performance indicators are going to be the same. We're going to decrease that third grade novice score. We're going to increase the number of educators participating in the Kentucky Numeracy Academies. We're going to increase the implementation of early numeracy screening assessment and the implementation of the numeracy diagnostics. The difference here is that numeracy is fairly new as far as the funding goes. We just got the funding for the numeracy. So we're really trying to put a lot of these things in place that were already in place for literacy. So for example, we've already had literacy improvement plans. So we're looking at decreasing those as we work through not needing those anymore as students increase their literacy scores. However, the numeracy ones, we're going to see an increase in those improvement plans because we're just now putting them in place. And so you're going to see an increase in the numeracy improvement plans. And then as you work through those improvement plans, we'll hopefully see a decrease on the other side of that. The strategies, again, are the same: aligning the vibrant learning experiences, supporting that high quality mathematics instruction, supporting that evidence-based curriculum and instructional resources, and then providing targeted mathematics support and intervention.
And that takes us to our last goal, which is expanding the recruitment of qualified educators. So here we want to specifically look at the teaching and learning pathway. Of all the students that get into that pathway, currently only 6% actually complete. So we're hoping to more than double that to 14% by 2029. We also just want to see more kids getting in there. So you'll see that in our key performance indicators, we're looking to increase enrollment. We know that not every student who enters a pathway is going to finish a pathway, and that's okay. This is a time for them to explore. But this is one way for us to get more teachers into the pipeline, is by making sure and at least having them explore the teaching and learning pathway and see if they are interested in something like that. We also want to increase registered apprenticeships and enrollment in educator preparation programs. And we're doing that through encouraging early entry and elevating the teaching profession in a very public way. All right, moving to the next.
So information and next steps on the strategic plan. We have given you a link to the strategic plan webpage. Currently, there's a full plan out there if you really want to dive in and get into the specifics of it. Underneath each of the strategies, we have initiatives, which is work that's happening in the offices. And so that plan really kind of dives into that work a little bit more and explains those strategies and the things that we're going to do a little bit better. Another reason that I shared the webpage with you all is we're working on a dashboard now, and this will either link to the dashboard or the dashboard will be embedded on this webpage. But that's where we're going to do most of the updating of those KPIs and the goals, and where you can really look at the trend lines and see our data around the strategic plan. We've also started our monitoring meetings, and we just finished our first round for all of the goals. And we actually have added a couple of strategies and a couple of KPIs around those. So those will be we will have to make some changes and update our dashboard when we get it. Do you want to say anything about that, Karen?
Yep, good job. That takes us to our ask. So on this page, what you're seeing is a call to action. And this one specifically is for families. We have created several pages like this. We have one for educators. We have, help me out, Susan. We have
students, community and business leaders.
There we go. Legislators. I think we have something that looks a little bit different for legislators. But this really just talks about the accountability model, the new assessment and accountability model, and how we would like others to help us advocate for it or champion this work. And so on each one of these, this one, like I said, is specific to families. You'll see the why this matters. So why does it matter that we have this new model framework? What you can expect as a family, as somebody who has a student in school. Why does this matter to you, and how can you be a part of it? So we can actually, the link that Susan just shared with you, these can all be found out there. So whether you're family or you want to share this information with others, all of these different pages are out there for you to see, for you to share the information. We would just love for all of you to be talking more and more about why it's important to move to this new model. We also, as part of this, are starting to change what our Kentucky United We Learn Council is focused on. So this has been the focus up to this point, creating this new accountability model that is made up, and I don't know if we have anybody on today who's specifically talking about this, pardon me, but there's a state part of it, and then there's a local accountability part of it. We have really gotten to where we need to be as far as presenting this to the legislators. So that's coming up in this next cycle, starting in January or February. They will be deciding if what we have is good to go or if it's going to need some changes. But from there, whatever comes out of that, we will be moving into implementation. And the biggest part of that we see fitting next is transforming high school. So how will all of what we've done so far change the student experience in high school? So that's a whole new initiative that's going on. We have one of our board members, Dr. Justin Pate, who is leading up this work along with Dr. Fletcher and others. So they are meeting with that whole team, coming together, I believe, at the end of this month, and Dr. Fletcher may be able to jump in and share more if he knows more. We're just kind of waiting for that to happen. But in the meantime, we're looking for more folks to join the United We Learn Council. So we do we have another slide? Yeah. So on the next slide, you'll see there's another link. So where you can find all of those pages that I just talked about, that's on here. But if you want to become a member of the Kentucky United We Learn Council, we would love to have you. We always need family members. We always need community members. We are just begging for those folks to join the council. So there is a link right here. Marcia I'm sure will get this sent out to everybody, or Leslie, and make sure that you have this in hand. There's also more information on here, and sorry, Susan, I think I might be jumping on your slide, but
it's okay.
More information on here about the high school transformation. We would just really, really love to have you be a part of it or pass it out. Again, there's all the information on here that you can share with others. There is an application process. We do expect to make those announcements of who the new members are by the end of October. So this application process is ending September 26th. So if you are interested, please, please, please go on out there and fill out that application, and we would love to see you in that meeting. Our next meeting will be in January with those new members. Dr. Fletcher, anything you want to add on that?
Yes, thank you, Karen. As far as the High School Transformation Network, Kentucky's been recognized for the work that we're doing in local accountability, but also too in adding vibrant learning into our high school and our middle school and elementary settings. But in particular, the spread of how we're using passion projects, defenses of learning, internships, apprenticeships. We're being recognized nationally to be a part of this High School Transformation Network. We are one of 6 states that, one, we want to display what's going on already, then what's the next steps as far as what should high school look like in the future. So again, a really good group of states that they're working with to see what this looks like, but we need the input of what's going on in Kentucky already. So we'll be happy to have we are having the COOL Council, or Kentucky United We Learn Council, to bring that on as part of their work is, how can we contribute to this high school transformation initiative, not only within our state, but also nationally. So we're looking forward to that work as we move forward.
All right, that concludes us, unless there are any questions for us.
I'm going to give the members an opportunity, or council members, to pose a question. I just wanted to connect a dot, and I'm going to be speaking towards the end of this presentation today about one of the recommendations from this council was to create a one-stop shop for parents to get information. So it jumped in my mind on your previous slide about connecting and how parents can talk to teachers. And I'll show that, but also within that connection hub, we have links to family guides. So all the way from K to grade 12 really has a wonderful guide about how to speak to your child to your teacher, and just what questions they could ask. And what has been amazing is as I've started to share that resource out to the various groups that I speak to and the work I do with community schools, people are just so thankful to see that resource that's guiding them to have those conversations that can be meaningful for the parents. So I just wanted to share that was a recommendation that came from this group, and it really is tying a lot of the work and a lot of the strategic plan and the family involvement pieces that we're doing. So I just want to thank you for that and just point that out. Any questions from the council or comments?
If it's okay, and I apologize for the background noise with traveling with work. So I'm just so appreciative of everything that is being done and ensuring that our children and our families are at the center of this. But one of the questions that I do have is, because it's wonderful we'll be able to share what this is about, how can you be involved with all of this work, but have we put at the statewide level, if we want families involved, but also at the going down all the way to the lower levels, within the districts, have we put into place where we can actually assist the families so that they can meaningfully participate, right? So a lot of times, it's not just enough to have access or be a part of it. If you don't have the assistance and the support, the same goes for our children to have a voice. Has there been put into place something that will assist them through this because their voice is so critical?
Yeah, I'll take that question
Okay,
on.
I thought you might.
Thank you so much. One of the things that's been proposed in this local accountability portion of the overall accountability model is, of course, collaboration with the community. In order to have a quote unquote valid local accountability model, there must be collaboration with the local community, including parents. So again, we have a lot of districts that's doing local accountability now, and they already have these type of systems in place where they are working with their families and they are working with their local communities. But what we want to see that is spread throughout the entire Commonwealth. So the first step is say, okay, we're requiring this. First of all, you must, and then you must have proof of how are you communicating with parents? How are you involving parents? How are you involving your local community members and other than your parents too, to make sure that they're a part of this accountability model. And then we're really leaving it up to districts on how they implement that because our districts are so different. What you may see in Jefferson County may look totally different than what you're going to see in Fulton County, or even, I'm looking at a map, that's why I'm looking up, or Pike County or something of that nature. So a lot of times you'll catch me looking up at a map when I'm trying to pick out some different areas. But that being said, the very first step is that requiring people to be a part. And again, our districts have been welcoming this. As a matter of fact, so many of our districts are doing this without our saying you have to do this, local accountability model. But the very first step is to say, how are you proving that you're working with your parents? Well, in order to work with your parents, you're going to have to overcome some obstacles. For example, you have some districts that may have a meeting before a ball game, because parents will come to ball games a lot of times, and then that's where they get them hooked and get them involved. Or maybe even doing home visits. How do we get out and we're really trying to look for those parents of kids that may fall through the cracks. We don't just want the kids that are then or not, and they have contributions too, but those parents whose kids are very active and involved, we see them a lot. So we intentionally want people to look at, okay, maybe this is a child that will fall through the crack, and how can we learn from their parents to keep that from happening? So again, we're leaving a lot of that up to districts, but we do have resources out there to help districts. And also too, you also have the family youth service centers that are key in this work of involving parents and removing obstacles to make sure parents have those opportunities. There are some resources here, but there's also a lot of resources through our family youth service centers. But for us, the very first step is to require that districts make sure that parents are involved, not just say, give the opportunity. It's more than give the opportunity for parents. You have to show that parents are actually part of the committee. And how do you do that? So it's exciting because I think I'll use Bullitt County as an example. The superintendent of Bullitt County, they've been doing local accountability work now probably for 2 years. And he says that this process of local accountability involving parents, involving community members, has really restored the faith in the community in the public system there in Bullitt County. And that's because of the transparency and the intentionality of making sure everybody's involved. So we're very excited about this local accountability portion of the model. But now, as far as resources, we can probably find some more of those as we go through. But a lot of that, we're really relying on districts to share with each other on what they're doing.
Thank you, Commissioner, for answering. Thank you, Rhonda. It's a good question. Any other questions? Well, if not, we're going to go to our next session, and I want to thank Karen and thank Karen and Susan so much for your time. If y'all have any questions, you can get back to them. You're welcome to stay with us for the duration of the meeting, but I understand if you're busy, you can leave. But we'd love to have you. But I'm going to move on. Oh, anytime. I'm going to move on to Dr. Hargis, and our next presentation comes from Dr. Hargis, and she is the Associate Commissioner in the Office of Career and Tech Ed, and she's going to be speaking to us on opportunities for apprenticeships and other career and tech ed. So, Dr. Hargis, it's all yours.
Thank you so much. I welcome the opportunity to speak with you all. And I know that's a long title for the slide, Opportunities for Apprenticeships and Other CTE Programs and Pathways. But of course, there's a lot going on with career and technical education. So next slide, please. And I'm going to throw this out and just say that over the past 10 years, now that's not research based, that's coming out of my head, but within the past 10 years, CTE, or career and technical education, has gained relevance at just a staggering rate. And more stakeholders are starting to understand that it's not career and technical education in one bucket and academic education in another bucket. Next slide, please. They should not be siloed, and it takes an integrated approach to bring those two together. And really, one can't survive without the other. And we've got to understand that every position, every career that's out there, it's going to take some sort of academics, and it's also going to take some sort of career and technical education training. And so both of these together, when you think of it the right way, it's going to lead to successful high demand and high wage careers. Next slide. So seamless pathways. So CTE, for us, best practices would be for CTE, a true pathway to be offered at the 9th grade level. And so we have these established, and they will walk the student all the way through a bachelor's degree, so post-secondary degree. And best practice includes the career exploration at the middle school level. And we hear this quite a lot that, well, we don't want to put those students into, they want to be an accountant. And what if they change their mind? And we don't want that, because I know my first year teaching, I sent a student to do some job shadowing, and they went to an accounting firm, and that's what my bachelor's is in. So I was so excited about it, only to have her come back the next day and say, there is no way I want to do that for the rest of my life. And it took me a little while to get over that, feeling like that was a failure. But what I realized was, now, unfortunately, she was a sophomore in high school, and I wish that she'd been able to do this sooner. But if you can get that in the middle school and start focusing and learning about careers effectively, then I think that's going to give you a little bit of a jump start then when you get to the 9th grade. CTE pathways, our courses include technical skills where students can learn the skills needed to be successful in the respective field, with alignment to the general education courses. And as an example, another example, quite often students may not be interested in those math concepts. So I have to apologize to Dr. Fletcher as the math teacher, but they may not, they don't know what the Pythagorean theorem is. It's a word that they can't pronounce. They certainly can't spell it. But when you relate that to the rise and run of a roof, it actually makes sense. And so, that full integration and putting those together, it helps those students see where those academics can be used in their day-to-day lives. We're also providing training in essential skills or employability skills. Students need to know what it's going to take to be successful in the real world. They have to get up early and go to work sometimes, and if they want that going forward, then they better, if they want to sleep late going forward, then they need to maybe rethink their career choice. And so we like to tell students that this is what you can expect in the real world. And so one of the most exciting opportunities afforded in CTE is the ability to participate in accelerated and early post-secondary opportunities, including work-based learning, industry certifications, end of program assessments, and dual credit opportunities. All right, next slide, please. And so you can see from this slide, now this is based on 2023-24 numbers, but look at what we've been able to do in the state of Kentucky. End of program certificates, and those offer an opportunity for articulated credit to colleges and universities within the state. And we had over 12,650 students earning those. In co-ops and internships, 2,163. CTE dual credit, 13,529. Registered apprenticeships, 289. And then valid industry certifications, 13,548. Next slide. And we're very proud of those. And I would certainly be remiss if I didn't mention our career and technical student organizations. Now, when I was in school, that was a club. You simply went to the club and you hung out for maybe 45 minutes and then you went back to class. And I've been in clubs over the years as a student where, we really didn't have any objectives. There wasn't any, it was really just about having the fun. Well, in our CTSOs, we still have fun, but please understand, these are, they provide integrated technical and leadership skills. They're not just extracurricular activities. Through competitions, these students are participating and competing at the regional, state, and national levels, and providing opportunities to show off the exemplar skills that Kentucky CTE students actually have. CTSOs also help students overcome fears. A few weeks ago, Dr. Fletcher and I had the opportunity to listen to some students from Cumberland County. And what stood out to me the most was because they were in one of these student organizations. And a couple of them said, I was so shy. I didn't like to speak in front of other people. And listen, you would have never known that to hear these students speak. They were so professional and I was so completely impressed. And we see this over and over again. It helps students it brings out the best in them when they can collaborate with other students for a common goal. And that's one of the things that CTSOs offers. Okay, next slide. And then I also want you to be aware of our work-based learning opportunities that are in the state. We have, and they're listed here, but the ones we want to hone in on, and if you'll go to the next one, the next slide, are our apprenticeships. And so I hear this question quite a lot, actually, what is a registered apprenticeship? And apprenticeships are the gold standard when it comes to work-based learning. Employer customized training program regulated by the United States Department of Labor. It combines on-the-job learning with classroom instruction and leads to a nationally recognized and portable credential. And so we hear a lot about this, and it's often thought that these are not appropriate for high school students. So I'd like for us to think about the differences in the apprenticeship options and then also consider cooperative education. Next slide. All right, so what's the difference between the three? Next slide. All right, cooperative education. It's a co-op placement, and it's paid work-based learning experience connected to a career pathway. So a student, maybe they want to be a registered nurse when they graduate. And so through this co-op experience, maybe they're working in a nursing home or a hospital. Maybe they've already attained an industry certification in high school. And so they're able to go out and work, and it's related to their career and technical education pathway. All right, next slide. All right, then we also have the youth apprenticeships, and this can be utilized in any sector as a paid and highly structured employer-driven program that allows students to accelerate their career through credit for prior learning for instruction and on-the-job learning. And then the next one. And this is one that in Kentucky we are so proud of. This is the pre-apprenticeship. It allows the student to prepare for application to a registered apprenticeship training program after graduation, and the employer or training provider can elect to give student credit towards their apprenticeship for coursework they have completed while in high school. All right, next slide. All right, so the track practice, and Mary Taylor in our office is over our track apprenticeship program, and so she aligns the word track with everything that you talk about with this program. And so it is a pre-apprenticeship program, and it stands for Tech Ready Apprentices for Career in Kentucky. And the name, as the name indicates, this was started in Kentucky, and it includes a four-course sequence in a pathway selected by industry partners. End of program industry assessments are aligned to that, and there's credit for prior learning determined by the sponsor after graduation. All right, next slide, please. And we actually have these established in 6 different areas right now: carpentry, electrical, welding, heavy equipment, sheet metal, and masonry. All right, so next slide. And so this is what it really means, because even if you hear track, you think, well, how does this actually work? And so the best practice would be for a student to start a career and technical education track or pathway when they're, in 9th grade. And so they go ahead and they take 3 CTE course credits, and they become known what's called a concentrator, because they've taken 3 of the 4 credits within that pathway. And so obviously they are focused on that pathway and they are concentrating. And then once the student is eligible to apply, they will go apply to an employer. And the employer may not hire them, but if they get hired, there's a lot of flexibility with this, because the company may even work with the school district to let the students earn their academic courses online outside of the classroom. And so one of the best stories that I have related to this, it was a manufacturer, and the students in this district would go to school 1 hour a day, first thing in the morning, and they took a CTE course that was directly aligned to what they were learning in the business and industry. Then the students left and they went to work. They did their academics online and got their credits. But what was so impressive about it, if there's a snow day, if we still have those, or if there's an illness, and school's out, those students are still going to work. During the summer, there's no summer break. Those students are still going to work. And so what actually ends up happening in this opportunity is those students have got a leg up on other people coming into that manufacturing company to get a job, because they've been working there for a couple of years upon graduation. Many of the employers will actually pay for the post-secondary education so that the student can further. There's just a lot of great opportunities here, and it's not for every student. There are some students that say, I don't want to do this. I don't want to lose my my summer vacation. I'm not interested in staying in Frankfort to work for the rest of my life. I want to move elsewhere. And so, as I said in the beginning, we never want to pigeonhole a student into a track that they cannot get out of. But I want you to be aware that these opportunities do exist. Apprenticeships exist for high school students, and not just post-secondary students. Next slide, please. Track began in 2013 as a youth apprenticeship pilot with 3 employers and 7 apprentices. And by 2025, over 1,500 apprentices completed or enrolled in more than 200 employers. So you can see that it is absolutely gaining steam. Next slide, please. And here's some good news. Keys can now be used for registered apprenticeships, in addition to 2 and 4 year institutions. So if a student goes to work somewhere and they have to have uniforms, they can use their KEYS money to apply that toward it. And over $1,200,000 awarded since 2018. Next slide, please. We have also been recognized by the U.S. Department of Labor multiple times as being the standard in this work. And other states are modeling our track opportunity. And so again, Kentucky's proud to be the first, and we're proud that it's successful and that we can show off what we've got going on in career and technical education. Next slide. Okay, so I wanted to end on this one because this shows the impact to the workforce for students participating in some form of work-based learning. And so if you can see this, and this is from KY Stats, and I know that it's got several dots, but if you'll look, these little blue dots, these are the ones who are making the most money, and they are also the ones that are the most likely to still be employed. And the reports are showing that. And if you come back up here to the legend, these are the students that have actually completed a career and technical education pathway in high school, and they have also participated in some form of work-based learning. And again, when you compare that to, no CTE at all, look where this falls. Now, again, there's more than one bullet for some of these, depending on the descriptions at the bottom. But still, we're very proud of these numbers. And the fact, and we know that, and we hear the stories because career and technical education is benefiting students and ultimately the workforce. And that's what we're here for, to train students how to go out, have a sustainable wage, and be able to have that standard of living that we all expect. Next slide, please. And I, again, want to thank you for your time and for listening to Career and Technical Education. I invite you to stay tuned, subscribe to our newsletter. You can go on the Kentucky Department of Education website and register for that. And please, if you have any questions at all in general for us, always reach out to our office. We are more than happy to help you and to try to answer anything that we can. And if we don't have the question, then we will try to find it for you. But do you have any particular questions at this time?
Well, it's me again. That's okay. So this is amazing, and the opportunities we want all of our children to be able to have. One of the things that we find, I can tell you as a parent myself, of a high schooler that has graduated, but also many of the families throughout, to have the opportunities to access such programs. A lot of times it relies on someone within the school has warranted that we should bring this opportunity to you. And really, I would love to see how we can break down that barrier so all of our children get access. And there may be, I know within different districts, there could be different things related to, vocational education, career, technical, all of that. But is there a fact sheet? Is there something that we could share with families that states what is available in each school district? What is the name of it? What does it do? So that families, many a times, if the opportunity is not presented to the student of the family, you have to know the exact name or what's supposed to be available to ask for it. So how can we help build that up so that all of our children have access throughout the state? I'm just trying to think of ways that we can partner just to help so more of our children get an opportunity.
Well, and you have a great point, Rhonda. When it is available throughout the state, and anyone can call our office. But if a student doesn't know about it going into it, then we know that our schedulers, our school counselors are overwhelmed with the jobs that they have. And so, again, our website has information, and we are happy to get. We have multiple one-pagers regarding the track. And so we'd love to get that to you. I can drop my email address into the chat box. And please, if you'll get in touch with me, and you're right, we need to do a better job of getting that news out. We do have people that roam the state and talk to school districts about this. But again, everybody's plate is so full. So I would encourage you, any students that you know, to make sure that they are aware of it and to ask. We're happy to provide any information to any particular district or to any family regarding this. And thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Rhonda. And that made me, I made a note, because I'm going to do a plug again for the Parent and Family Connection Hub, because those are all parent-facing documents and resources that are out there. But as I share that to the groups before we've done our official launch, and Jeremy, I'll get to you in just a second. I see your hand. We ask for suggestions. Is there anything missing? And so, Rhonda, that made me think that might be a really good new addition to that hub, like the parent-facing resources that would connect parents to those districts so that they could find out that information easier, because you brought up a great point. So thank you. Any other question? Oh, Jeremy, sorry.
I was just saying, great work, Dr. Hargis. It's good to see you today. And I know you remember my two little ones. I bought one of them, my 14-year-old, a welder last night because he wants to be a welder. So just to let you know, and my 15-year-old is actually in the ATC here welding. So they're excited about it, and you've done great work. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's so nice to see.
I think Dr. Hargis may have purchased her own welder too recently in the past year or so. Is that correct, Dr. Hargis, or am I spreading bad rumors?
You're spreading bad rumors. I bought a laser engraver.
Hey, that's a cool tool too. So yes, thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Dr. Hargis? Dr. Hargis, thank you so much. This is really good info. And so again, you're welcome to stay with us, and I hope you do. I do understand if you can't, and feel free to jump off whenever you need to. We're going to move on to supporting students with disabilities in career and tech ed. And so I'm going to turn this over to Bill Bates and Tracy Parks. Bill, I think you're starting, correct?
Yeah, great. I am.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you all for having us to start with. This is very exciting, and I'll echo many of the things that Dr. Hargis just talked about and how we're working with students with disabilities in career and technical education. I am Bill Bates. I'm the Exceptional Child Education Consultant for Career and Technical Education, but I'm through the Office of Special Education and Early Learning within the Transition Education Unit. If you go to the next slide, please. And I always want to take the time to let you know that we're able to do the things that we do and the great work that's going on in Kentucky because of the leadership and the vision and the passion of Dr. Greta Hilton, who's the Associate Commissioner of the Office of Special Education and Early Learning, and Dr. Beth Hargis, the Associate Commissioner for the Office of Career and Technical Education. And they not only saw the value of doing everything we can to support students with disabilities, that we need to do everything that we can do to support students in career and technical education, but let's all work together and do all that we can possibly do to support students with disabilities in career and technical education programs and pathways. So if you go to the next slide, please. So the question that came to us from this group was, how can we better support students with disabilities in applying to career and technical education, the CTE programs? So as we looked at that, not only do we want to make sure that we're supporting students and being successful in applying to CTE programmings, but how can we support them to make sure that they are successful in the programming? So, and you heard some terms that Dr. Hargis threw out in the last presentation. We want to make sure that we get them to a concentrator level. We want to make sure that we can help get them to a completer level. And to make sure we all have a shared knowledge on this, let's take a quick look at CTE. Next slide, please. So what we hope to do within this time slot that we have is give you a snapshot of you can better understand how CTE supports students with disabilities, how we explore effective school and system level practices, learn how OCL and OCTE collaborate to improve CTE access, identify strategies to improve the concentrator and completer status, and connect post-secondary training, transition planning within workforce readiness. Next slide, please. So, no, let's go back one, please. Yeah, this is the one we need right here. Thank you. As we look at career and technical education, and Dr. Hargis talked about it earlier, when a student takes their first class in an approved CTE pathway, they're considered an exploring student. They're exploring this pathway to see if, in fact, is this the direction they're going to go. Now, when they complete two classes within an approved pathway, they're considered a concentrator. If they complete 4 classes, they're considered a completer. Now, what we do know, and why it's so important, and you heard Dr. Hargis, you'll hear me, you'll hear us talk about it continually, is reaching that concentrator status. Because what we know about students that successfully become a concentrator is that they are more likely to be completers, they're more likely to pass into program assessments, they're more likely to pass industry certifications, they're more likely to graduate, and they're more likely to successfully transition to post-secondary, whether that's education or the work field. And once again, as I said before, one of the reasons that we're sharing this is that not only do we want to make sure that students with disabilities have access to apply and enter into the programming, but they can be successful concentrators and completers. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So, according to the Association of Career and Technical Education, and I see this number goes up and down each year, but this is actually data from 2025 that students concentrating in CTE programs have significantly higher graduation rates, and that's at 93% compared to the national average of 80%. And once again, within that 93% that is graduating, that does include students with disabilities. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So when we look at CTE and special education, and we know the importance of both and working together, we formed a work group between the Office of Special Education and Early Learning and the Office of Career and Technical Education. And the first thing we looked at is we wanted to see, we did research to see, is the percentage of students with disabilities entering into career and technical education programming comparable to the percentage of students that are in the general setting. We found out that yes, it is. That number is about the same. So our next question was, is the percentage of students with disabilities achieving concentrator and completer status comparable to their non-disabled peers? And the answer to that was no. So what we found is that we have the comparable number of students with disabilities going into the CTE programming, but not achieving completer and concentrator status. So obviously the next question is why? Why is that not happening? We did research once again, and let's go back a slide, please, to the. Okay, yeah, awesome. Okay, so we did research again to find which area technology centers, career and technical centers, college and career centers, and local education agencies with CTE programming, which of those sites were having the most success with students with disabilities achieving concentrator and completer status. And so when we found the programs that were the highest performing, and you may find it interesting, that even in some cases we had CTE programs that the students with disabilities were outperforming students in general. What were they doing different? What practices did they have that they were having this success? The very first thing that came up with each of them was intentional scheduling, one-on-one planning with students and families, choosing pathways that they can be successful. And so you see that if you make this connection with the students and you start early, as Dr. Hargis talked about, starting early so they understand what it is within the program, what they're going to be doing prior to getting in that first class, then certainly they have more opportunities that will stay in that program and that pathway and be successful. Also, when you look at scheduling, the sites that were having the greatest success, again, they schedule their students with IEPs first because you can have scheduling conflicts to make sure that everything works out so they can complete a program. And building strong relationships. We heard each of the successful programs saying high expectations for every student, having regular check-ins, consistent support, personalized support, and most of the programs that are having the greatest success will have someone on site that's dedicated to special education students in CTE. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. So when we look at, once again, the opportunities for the programs that are doing the best for the students with disabilities, they have professional learning for educators with CTE and special education working together. We have trainings throughout the year for CTE teachers to help them better understand individualized education programs, accommodations, behavioral supports, co-teaching strategies for CTE instructors. We also participate in training for the New Teacher Institute, which is a program designed to help new teachers obtain occupational-based certification. And many of these teachers haven't had education classes before. So the fact that certainly they haven't had classes working with students with disabilities. We have CTE and special education teachers attending and presenting jointly at professional learning environments. We have programs that are, and we continue to encourage them to leverage Perkins funding for special education staff, adapted tools, modified equipment, and as Dr. Hargis said before too, is engaging students early, stepping back into the elementary and middle schools, whether that's career pathway tours, career fairs, exploring courses at their schools or field trips to the ATCs. Many of the area technology centers will have a day or 2 days where they invite all of their feeder schools with their students with IEPs to spend a day going through programs to see how it looks and what works. Next slide, please. Yeah, so once again, looking at collaboration and access across educators and families, you have when you're looking at support, you can have not only students coming from different buildings on a campus, but coming from different campuses and coming from different districts to attend an area technology center or a career and technical center. So you make sure that everyone's working together, and the special education teachers, the CTE teachers, the counselors, IEP team members, parents, and students are all communicating and working together from exploration to placement, and then providing supports needed for students to be successful. I'll share one quick story, and I know we have limited time today, but just this past year we ran 6 pilots, different parts of the state in area technology centers that did not have full-time or even part-time special education support on site. Wayne County was one of those pilots, and they got the grant implemented about midway through the fall semester. And at that time, they had 22 students with IEPs that were failing classes. They hired 3 part-time instructors, retired teachers, to just help support their special education students on site. By the end of that spring semester, they didn't have a single student with an IEP that was failing any classes at all. So obviously they took that data to their board. I was on site yesterday for a different project we were doing and got to meet their new full-time special education teacher for CTE programming. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. Yeah, so, and I don't know if Dr. Hargis is still on or not, but she'll be very familiar with what I have on the screen right now. When we talked about earlier, making sure that intentional placement and informed decisions, and I think it'll even speak to the question that we had for Dr. Hargis, is that we had examples in the field of the most successful programs that were moving students to concentrator level and not just exploring, is they were working with the students early prior to enrollment, letting them know what these programs are about, what you have to be able to do to be in this program, and then also working with the special education team and the counselors and administrators and everyone involved that are if we're able to place this student, here's what they have to be able to know to be successful, and here's the supports that they'll need to be successful in that field. So from our work in OCL and OCTE, this guidance document was formed and born, and it lives on the CTE webpage, on KDE's website. And within this, all 122 pathways are in there. It describes them. It tells, it outlines careers that you can have. It outlines the aptitudes the student will need to be successful. It talks about post-secondary opportunities within each of these pathways. Helps align the student, family, and IEP team in planning transition. And it assists with program of study, with scheduling, with aligning coursework, with student interests, aptitudes, informs everyone involved in decision making. And I can say this as a former special education teacher and CTE, if I would have had this when I was placing students, when I was working with the ARC team to place students, I would have done a better job. I would have been more knowledgeable. I would have known who I need to involve and talk to about what support students need to be successful. I would have placed more students successfully. I would have been able to support the students within the program more successfully, and more students would have been concentrators and completers just by the use of this one document. And I think that Tracy, I think she linked it in the chat. Anyway, if you get a chance to look at it, it's amazing. I think that every parent, teacher, administrator, counselor, everyone needs to use this to guide what they do and for students in career and technical education. Next slide, please.
Thank you. So again, I am Tracy Parks, and it's really nice to be here with everyone today. And I'm happy to be presenting with the great Bill Bates. Great job, Bill. We were pretty excited when we heard about what the question was that was posed by the council. Bill and I both have a pretty good amount of experience. I'm a previous CTE principal. He's got CTE experience, and then I worked a lot in intervention supports and when he's worked in special education. So it's an area that we can definitely, or we have an appetite for talking about quite a bit. Apologies in advance if we go over on our time. It's just something that we're both pretty passionate about. I do want to quickly recap a point that Bill has made. He emphasized the importance of not only supporting students with disabilities accessing CTE, but we want to make sure that we're helping them progress to that concentrator status. And I just want you to hold on to that because we're going to come back around to that towards the end of the presentation. As Bill mentioned, there are fewer students with disabilities reaching concentrator status compared to their non-disabled peers. And that gap, it's a perfect example of where our work lives. So Bill also illustrated that our work takes on a very layered approach. We do collaborate at the state level between our offices of Office of Special Education and Early Learning, and then the Office of Career and Technical Education. But at the same time, we're directly engaging with districts and schools and diverse role groups all across Kentucky. At the school level, we are working to identify those strategies and practices that are working really well, like the master scheduling, designing that with students with disabilities in mind first, and how beneficial that is. And those types of insights are really helpful in informing, the development of those statewide resources like the guidance document, so that all schools can benefit from that understanding and those insights. So just as Bill mentioned, with the guidance document, now we have, we've collected all of that information, created a resource, and counselors are now being able to use that to place students in very well matched pathways. So it's hugely beneficial all across the state. And this type of collaboration is really what helps us align our efforts around that shared priority, which is really just making sure that students leave high school prepared for life after high school. We just want to make sure that they're all prepared for what's coming next. So as much as we can, we really want to stack the deck in their favor so that students with disabilities do find that success that we want them to have. Next slide, please. So highlighted here, are some of the collaborations and activities that Office of Special Education and Early Learning and Office of Career and Technical Education are engaged in. So both working together at the state and national level, presenting at conferences. We want to share Kentucky's story. We want to showcase and highlight the strategies and practices that are really making a real difference for students with disabilities. And much of that professional learning we consider co-developed with districts and schools because of our direct engagement with them. Their insights, really shape the message and often the delivery as well, because we do shared presentations. For example, Bill mentioned the DOST Institute. He co-presented that with several districts recently. The conferences are not just, there for gaining and delivering information. They are networking opportunities for us to be able to, offer a preview of the supports that we provide and the type of work that we're doing, but it also allows us to come together and foster those future collaborations. And so it's really helpful to bringing people together. Beyond conferences, we're actively supporting key councils, cross-agency work groups, and a lot of locally led action planning. And all of this is aimed at scaling the work for improving outcomes for students with disabilities. On the next slide, you will see that we are also working to support educators in accessing that professional learning. Thus, we've provided scholarships for several years, and we hope to continue providing those scholarships. So, for example, one scholarship we provide to special education teachers to be able to attend CACTE, which is the Kentucky Association of Career and Technical Education Conference. But doing so really opens the door for collaboration, because it provides deeper understanding, say, between special education teachers and CTE teachers, how they can best support one another. And of course, we are there as well, often providing workshops. I think most recently was the IEP Team Players session that we provided, working directly with educators, and we bring those special education teachers or CTE teachers or whatever role groups that are involved, we bring those together, reinforcing that connection and guiding them in supporting students with disabilities together. Next slide, please. In addition, our engagement with New Teacher Institute, as Bill mentioned, and future educators adds just another layer of outreach. We want to raise awareness and build support and cultivate those future allies committed to students with disabilities. These are our future collaborators, our future partners. So we definitely want to invest in that community. And also, we connect directly with students, and it's such a treat to be able to serve as mentors and judges or supporters at CTSOs, Career and Technical Student Organizations. These are competitions like Skills USA, TSA, and STEMathons and different things like that, related events. They provide valuable access for us to student voice, but we're really intentional about supporting CTSO events because they are enrichment experiences that really help bring key predictors to life. And I will tell you a little more about predictors on the next slide. It's really exciting research that we are involved with. But for students with disabilities, these kind of vibrant learning experiences, the CTSOs, they boost engagement for them, and it deepens their connection to their CTE pathway. So that engagement and that connection, it really increases their chances of reaching that concentrator status that we so want them to achieve. So while working with, next slide, please, sorry.
That's okay.
There we go. There is a cornerstone to this collaboration, why the work of OCL and OCTE is connected. So I mentioned last slide the predictors, and so I want to provide a little information on that. It's such as exciting research, and it's making a real significant difference in our work. So these are the predictors. You can see here there are 23 listed, and it's what they are is they are in-school experiences or practices that are associated with positive post-school outcomes for students with disabilities. So these experience or practices, if we're implementing them in school while the students are here, we're seeing a direct correlation to increasing positive outcomes after they leave high school. We have them organized into 3 outcome areas. So you have education, employment, and independent living. And these predictors may impact 1 or all 3 of these areas. So here's the big deal. With CTE, you can see on there, it is the only predictor that is both research and evidence-based for both education and employment, respectively, when students reach that concentrator status. And, you know, it's not just a big deal, it's transformational. It makes such a difference. Just consider that CTE is only one of the 5 predictors listed under the career development cluster. You can see those listed to the right of the slide, the 5 there. So if you consider 5 of those all occurring in one immersive, hands-on, engaging environment such as a CTE school, it's proof of how powerful it can be for students with disabilities. And this work is more than just a partnership between state level offices. This is engaging and supporting schools in what we know works and what the research shows that works. Next slide, please. So a National Technical Assistance Center took these 23 predictors and they created the Predictor Implementation Self-Assessment, what we call the PISA. And what it is basically is they just created clear definitions for each one of the predictors. So now the schools can use those definitions to self-evaluate and determine how effectively am I implementing this predictor, again, which is experiences and practices. And that kind of ties back to the CTE reaching concentrator status. So if CTE is one of those predictors and we're saying, hey, I've got students with disabilities in CTE classes, you know, and they feel like that's going to impact the outcome for those students, there might be a piece that's missed. And this PISA will help them catch that, because with the definition of it, it's clarifying that for the research that's available for CTE, it's saying students need to reach the concentrator level. So they need to have at least 2 or more classes in that same pathway for this research to be applicable, for that CTE predictor to have that positive impact for post-school outcomes. So this is a really valuable tool. It helps them identify areas where that they can grow and develop targeted action plans that leads to meaningful and measurable change or improvements for students with disabilities in their outcomes. Next slide, please. So how do we take all of this research, the predictors, the tool for the PISA, and actually bring that to life for schools? And that's where OCL's Transition Education Unit, the TEU team, really comes into play. We are actively building capacity all across this state. Through the Transition 360 for Educators, we've launched this statewide initiative that brings together all diverse role groups. We have principals, doses, counselors, paraeducators, CTE, special education, and general ed teachers, all alike, learning side by side. I believe we currently have, I think, 15 districts participating right now, and we are continuously growing. Everyone is kind of getting on the same page about how to best support students with disabilities, especially in settings and spaces like CTE. So the TEU team supports districts through structured action planning process. They help them with real implementation and these self-identified goals. And the outcome is they're strengthening their post-secondary transition planning, which is supporting the outcomes for those students. It's not just training, it is a full wraparound ecosystem of supports. So it involves targeted professional learning. We're providing guided action planning and self-determined goal setting. There's deeper dive webinars offered every month. We have a multi-day immersive summer institute that all are coming to engaging in collaborative work and ongoing coaching throughout the whole thing. So it centers on collaboration and shared vision. It's really just teaming at its finest and ensuring schools and districts have exactly what they need to expand access and improve outcomes for their students at a local level with disabilities. We've talked about the impact of OCL and OCTE collaboration, but we know that real transformation happens when that spirit of collaboration and teaming is really taking hold at the local level. So, what's exciting for us is that is exactly what we're seeing come to life through this Transition 360 for educators. Next slide, please. So, what's next? We want to learn from what's working. Everything from the strategies we're identifying at the school level all the way up to, the nationally level researched predictors and information that we're receiving from that end. We want to make sure that we keep that momentum moving forward. So we're continually engaging with schools and districts to be involved in this work. And we want to expand the representation of all of those role groups. So bringing everyone to the table. And last, we want to make sure that we build a system that lasts. So increase the capacity and leadership so that this work and all of its benefits continues long after our presence is gone. Next slide, please. So here you'll have our contact information. I know I provided a lot of information to you really quickly. We would love to hear from you if you have any questions or if you'd like to share ideas. And it was a pleasure connecting and sharing with you today. So thank you so much. And if there is questions or no questions, I'll pass that back to Chair.
We need to
thank you.
bounce past that slide to the contact information,
Oh,
please.
one more slide, sorry.
2 more.
Oh, yes, those 2 we pulled out.
And then we talked about that. There we go.
One
There's
more.
your
There we go.
contact.
Awesome.
There we
Thank you.
go.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Bill or Tracy?
Well, it's me again. So I don't think everybody understands how extremely blessed we are at the work. And Bill, you're right. Under Greta Hilton, I'm going to tell you, we are very blessed. And the work that is being done for our children with disabilities is unheard of anywhere else. Looking at how we all partner, and one of the things, with Kentucky SPIN and all of us together is we're not only getting this critical information, these supports to the educators, which is critical, not just special educators. This is getting to everybody involved, which is what is going to help our child be successful. In our work too, one of the things that we're working on with the Transition 360 partnered with OSEAL is the Transition 360 for educators. There is also going to be the training that they receive released coming up, and I can make sure that I share that there will be the online modules for parents, the work that we're doing with Kentucky SPIN with OSEAL to get that information to families, and how we partner together, how we all look at it takes all of us. And one of the critical points as well through all of this, and Bill, you said this in the beginning, this isn't just about, and you said it better, which I'm not going to say, but is not only getting access, but how do we support them so they're successful in it, right? And this is, I can't say enough good things in the work that is being done, and partnering also with other components of KDE. Just in the last 10 years, we have come so far. I'm one that's been around probably a little too long, you could tell. We've come in ways so far that honestly, I never thought I'd see this day. So I am grateful and just look forward to all of our children doing well.
Rhonda, thank you so much. Are there any other questions or comments or something to share with Bill or Tracy?
Marcia, I would just love to thank them for being able to bring this information to us, because as someone who just wondered about those students, it's so nice to be able to see that you all really are bridging that gap and that you have the expertise in place. And, just my own dad, he started a business after he was in high school. And I don't know that he was identified as special education, but he definitely was not a scholar. And he took lots of those CTE courses and then was able to take that work, and he had a successful business. And, I think of so many students, I'm a parent, but I'm also an educator. And I had so many students in my classroom that I could see their future. And you know how some people are like, oh, this student's going to be successful in this and this. And I would think, this student was identified as special education, but given the right supports, I could see they would be the perfect plumber. They would be the perfect electrician. They would be the student that would be able to just, take those real world skills, and they would be the person you would be calling to come and, and they have no college debt, and they have, such a successful opportunity in life. And we've got so many students that for so long thought if you don't have a 4-year degree that you're not going to be able to contribute, or there's not, success on the other end of that. And I think we're doing a better job going back to helping them realize that's not the case, and there's a place for you, and helping them get there. So I'm excited to be able to hear that you also have this Pathway Strengths Guidance. I'm not able to access it. I'm hoping that I can get access into that, but I also work here at the cooperative level, so I can't wait to have the conversation with our director of special ed just around like, what are we doing regionally to be able to make sure that our special ed departments have all of the information that they need. It's so exciting to see the research too. Like, this isn't theoretical. This isn't just my personal experience. This is actually being researched, and we can see we've got students who really can fill those critical trade gaps in our society, and they're the perfect students to really connect to. They're not going to connect to all the academics necessarily, just right off, but if we can give them some tangible skills and then embed the academics in there, that's just a really exciting time for us in this state. Thank you all.
If you can't get to it from the link in chat, you can go to KDE's website and go to the OCTE page, and it's linked over on the right side of the front page.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you, Bill, for helping guide her to the resource. Leah, those were great comments too, and so I'm just appreciative of both you and Rhonda and your thoughts and your insights and how to use this information, as you both kind of represent not only being a parent, but your organizations and the place and the role that you have in helping make these connections. So I just I want to thank you very much for those comments. Anyone else while we still have them with us? I want to thank both of them tremendously. Bill, Tracy, thank you so much. That was very informative. I was so engrossed that I was kind of forgetting to progress the slides. So I will apologize for that. And we're gonna move on. But thank you all so much. And I'm so glad you were able to address the question from this group, because I said at the beginning, this is the parent advisory and the family advisory group. And so they've set this agenda, and they have tremendous questions which really help inform our work on many levels. So I'm very appreciative of all that. I'm going to move on, and you all are welcome to stay. So I'm going to move on, and I have Dr. Judy Vanderhaar and Lisa Henry. They are here from the Division of Student Success to talk about Attendance Matters. And I know we heard a little bit about the Attendance Matters campaign at the beginning of this meeting today. So Judy, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Marcia. Let's see if you can advance the slide. We're going to quickly go over some of these things here in the overview, and really wanted to leave time to hear some of your feedback and get your input. So these are the things we'll cover. If you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, as Karen actually shared earlier, reducing absenteeism is part of the strategic plan for the Department of Education. And, we're also actually kind of part of a larger group of states who are working to reduce chronic absenteeism by 50%, which is very an aggressive reduction. But I do believe that some of these major changes that our commissioner discussed and some of you all on here are sharing, we can do that. some of the things, Bill, that you talked about that make successful programs are exactly what keeps kids in schools. Those caring and connected relationships and relevant, engaging learning that's relevant and related to the interest of our young people. So if you see the last bullet on here is something Lisa's going to talk about a little bit more, is about our communication efforts around chronic absenteeism. So I'll share a little bit of data on the next slide, next couple of slides. There's some data you might be interested in. So we have an awesome analyst, Leslie McKinney, who analyzes the data and creates these amazing charts. And so this is, I think, a really beautiful one to kind of look at where we have been. So going back to 2018 at 17% chronically absent. And just as a reminder, chronically absent is defined as missing 10% or more of school time, regardless of whether it's excused or unexcused, regardless of whether it's a full day, half day, or you leave early or you come late. So it's counting all time. So chronically absent is missing 10% or more of school time. So moving up, no surprise, like everyone else in the country, past the pandemic. So we hit our peak in 2023 at 30%. So it's pretty staggering, and happy to see it's starting to go down. And you see the line where the intention is to move down. So next slide, please. All right, so this is these are some maps that Leslie created, and I think are an awesome visuals to look at what's happened across our state and specific to counties. So on the top left, you see in 2018, the blue areas are where there's at least 25% or more students chronically absent. So you see, even in 2018, before the pandemic, we see some issues in the Eastern. And then below that, we see in 2023, the explosion of chronic absenteeism across the state, and an even worsening in the Eastern areas of the state. And then now you see in the big map here in 2024, you still see even worsening rates in some places. So, yeah, I think that, again, this is a great visual. We can always talk about averages, but what that really means, in one place, you're at 85% of chronically absent. And in other places, you're, maybe 5% in the state. So next slide, please. So in thinking about, and a lot of you on here will probably be familiar with this tiered approach. So this is basically a framework for looking at interventions, and similar to other areas with attendance, attendance is related to all the other ones, right? Academic, behavior, social and emotional, and all of the things. But as far as a tiered approach, we have that kind of foundation, which is really promoting a positive conditions, culture and climate for students and families. That's the foundation. And so then you have tier 1 going up to tier 3. So you can look at this at the school level, the district level, and thinking about the state level. We're going to get into the campaign and really considering this campaign of very positive messaging statewide as kind of a foundation. So that's kind of where this campaign is situated for us. So next slide, please. I think Lisa will take it from here.
Thank you, Judy. So as Judy mentioned, and as Karen and Susan mentioned with their presentation, this is part of the strategic plan in order to reduce chronic absenteeism across the state. And we have collaborated with the Division of Communications to create this campaign. We've had meetings for several months, and you're starting to see some of the end products of it, either in your communities or on your social media or streaming services. And as Judy mentioned, we wanted to go with a very positive message. Last year, the message was, "We missed you in class."
And we kind of felt that that had more of a negative deficit language to it. So this year we wanted to focus on You Belong, that students feel connected, they feel cared about, that they feel that school is supportive and relevant. And as Bill and Beth and Tracy all talked about CTE and making sure that you're making that education relevant, I felt that as too, coming from the classroom where I taught high school English and special education, and I've worked a lot with alternative program students. So I know that students really struggled sometimes to find that school was relevant. So I love what CTE is doing and making sure that all of our kids in Kentucky find a niche within that school to feel connected and to go forward with their education. Next slide, please. So their communications has marketed several areas with both online presence around Rep Arena and Yum Center with exterior displays and interior for when there's large events with families and children there. We also have billboards strategically placed across the state in areas that we know have higher rates of chronic absenteeism. If you live in Lexington or Louisville, you may have seen advertisements on the buses or inside the buses. I've seen it go past my street a few times. And then there has been social media ads that have been running on all the Meta platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Reels, as well as on some streaming services. And that is actually, we sat down today in a meeting and looked at how many impressions were being made, who's watching and looking at it. So we're going to be adjusting in the next week to target different areas where there haven't been a lot of clicks or impressions yet. So again, focusing a lot to making sure that the message is out there, especially in Eastern Kentucky, South Central Kentucky, Western Kentucky, that may not have the public transportation or the other resources. Next slide, please. These are just some samples of some of the slides, or excuse me, billboards that have gone up across the state. In the bottom right corner, that's from Jefferson County, where it's even in some of the bus stops where, you know, children are waiting for transportation or families are waiting. Just wanting to make sure that they know that they are welcomed here. Next slide, please. There's also on the KDE Chronic Absenteeism webpage resources for families and for community leaders and for educators. For families, I want to highlight that there are handouts about to talk about with your child, like when you miss this much of school, that you are going to, you know, potentially not graduate. And Judy and I, we both work with the Persistence to Graduation team. So all of our efforts around dropout prevention. Another resource that's great for families, we know a lot of students have anxiety and about coming to school. And so there's some resources to look at that as well. And then there's some handouts for families that we encourage you to look at Attendance Works, again, to talk to your child about attendance, and those resources are available in English, Spanish, and multiple languages. Next slide, please. So why Judy and I are on here, and we really want to thank Leslie and Marcia for including us in this meeting, is we want to hear from family partners. What are resources that you think would help support attendance as we go further with the campaign into the year? We are already starting to talk about printables, as far as like magnets, postcards that schools could send to students. So we would like to hear from the family members or anybody else on here. If you want to unmute yourself or even put anything in the chat that you think might be helpful, because we can take that back to our team and look at how we can better communicate and help support. So we'll just open it up for discussion, or if you want to drop anything in the chat, please feel free.
Well, I've already mentioned it in the chat, so I'm just going to bring it back into the room, which is our kids are on TikTok. Like I know you put Facebook, but Facebook is going to be facing the parents and the grandparents. So if you want to get to the kids themselves, they're not looking at billboards or buses because they're looking at their phones and they're on TikTok. So if high schoolers are your audience, that's I've raised 4 now and I can say like that's where they are. So the messaging, like a flyer to them or a magnet, is not going to stick. Sorry about the pun. But
that was a great one.
Yeah, But if you want to really get in the front of those students, that's where it's going to be. And one thing I would like to bring out is there a way to celebrate and incentivize or encourage schools and districts to incentivize attendance in any way where it's not just, hey, we want you there, but like there is some actual, celebrations even of whenever we are seeing like consistently improved attendance, or for perfect attendance, your name goes into a raffle or a drawing. And I'm sure districts are doing some of these things, but just ways for students to, maybe decide, hey, I've got, one more day perfect attendance and my name's going to go into a drawing or something like that.
No, I love that idea, Leah. I had already written your idea down about the TikToks. And we had the discussion earlier today. My son just graduated from high school 2 years ago. He was never on Facebook or even on Instagram, but he was on YouTube watching sports videos and hockey videos. And absolutely, I think, branching into maybe the TikToks would be helpful. And I love the idea about the celebrations. We actually kind of partner a lot with our REACs. And I know some of our Western Kentucky REACs are desperately waiting for the new data to come out because they already have celebrations planned for increasing their attendance rate. So yes, I will take that back. Anybody else?
Yes, I was going to say the same thing as Leah about TikTok, a big thing. And I know I don't know if anybody else does it, but one thing every kid in our district sees is the Kona ice truck.
Oh.
I think that might be a huge thing potentially. I don't know if you could get with Kona Ice, because I know they go to lots and lots of schools, for the kids to see that because they're there. I don't know if you could wrap a truck in that. I don't know, something with that. So every kid seeing it, that's where they see it. I think that's something that they're invested in. But we're also doing at our school, we're doing quarterly attendance recognitions for kids. We're doing our first one's coming up, and we're doing a dirty soda fountain for all those kids, stuff that they like, things that just that they like. And so I think anything we can do like that is going to really help them. But I mean, you can talk to parents all you want to, but unless the kids really want to come to school, that parent's still not going to make them. We know that. They're just not going to get them there because those are the kids that the parents don't really care most of the time. And so, or at least in our building it is. And so we try to work with those kids about why they need to be here and the important things and the fun. But I think if you could do I like the Kona Ice idea. I just think that's a neat, I don't know if you could, some kind of incentive with Kona Ice. I know they give out things. If you buy a $5 Kona, you get something. Maybe it could be something about attendance. Maybe that could be something, or the cup could be an attendance cup, or I don't know. So just idea.
I like that. Yeah, Kona Ice was very popular where I taught.
Huge.
Well, one of the things that I think is so critical, because from the family's perspective, most families that are struggling, that are having trouble with the chronic absenteeism, from my experience, is it's not that we don't want our children to go, right? The problem is that they are struggling greatly. We don't have the resources, know where to turn, what to do. And so how can we create not only awareness to where it's important to be in school, and I'm not dismissing the importance of that, please know that, because it is that awareness. But we need more of an awareness. You mentioned the REACs. Our REACs throughout the state are amazing. I think it was last year. They may have even done it this year, the Jefferson County REAC. And it may have been another REAC too, created specific for the region on their awareness thing. It wasn't just it's important to come to school. Here are some resources. If your child is struggling with mental health, here's where you can reach out and you can contact. So what we need to get to parents and the families is how they can reach out. What do they need to ask for through the school? What interventions are in place? How can we get MTSS for the behavioral and the mental health just as quickly as we may for reading and writing when they're struggling? How do we get that information to the families, but also help them? And the way I'm saying it is us as partners, right? I'm not saying It's going to take all of us to make a difference. But really looking at how do we get that information to them, because you still don't, when there's awareness, when you get that opportunity that it reached somebody, we've got to also give them the tools at the same time of, if this is what's occurring, reach out, ask for this. And I know that each district is different in what's offered in the supports, but if there's like a higher level of what you ask for and what you reach out to, that we can help and get that information to families, I think would help a great deal. Because for the most of us, it's not because we don't want. There are barriers that are set up that we can't overcome by ourselves, and our children can't either. So thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. And yes, when Judy and I go and do trainings on chronic absenteeism for school and district levels, we do talk about the barriers to attendance. But you're right, we need better ways to communicate. If you're trying to overcome this particular barrier, who are your resources? Where do you go to? How do you ask for help? So I thank you. I know that Marcia wants to have some time to speak with all of you, so I'm just going to drop our emails in the chat. If you think of any other things after this meeting, please feel free to contact Judy or myself or any member of our team, and we would love to connect with you and hear more of your suggestions. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy and Lisa, and thank you all so much for your conversation around that. And that really is a great segue into the final thing. Lisa, one last thing. I'm really glad to hear that you all talked about different ways to spread attendance matters into Eastern Kentucky and Southeastern Kentucky, because we don't have, I live in Southeastern Kentucky, we don't have those public transportation. I see the ads roll, but it was a great point I think Jeremy made about those are those are parent facing. I keep saying public today, but those are parents and grandparents. And then how do we reach the kids? But also, how do you reach these geographical areas that don't have Rupp Arena and that don't have the public transportation? So I love hearing that too. And just trying to brainstorm how to reach those other communities. So I'm appreciative of your work and everything that's shared. And I'm going to touch on that too. Am I going to just go past this as well? I think so.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not sure. Maybe those were
That's
extras.
okay.
So thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Sorry about that. I'm going to give an update, and I've kind of hinted at it, and we've talked about several sections of it on the recommendations that this particular council made to KDE. And so in the interest of time, I'm going to do this pretty quickly, and I will allow some extra time when we come back together at our next meeting. But one of the recommendations that this group made to KDE was to have the one-stop shop. And so for parents to access parent-facing information and resources. So I just wanted to show quickly that we now have the Parent and Family Connection Hub. It is live. We have done just a soft launch. We will do a more formal and a press release, hopefully coming up in November. And so you can see it's right there on the homepage. It is the Parent and Family Connection Hub. So what I'm going to try to do here is actually in this show and jump on the hub so that I can walk you through it just a little bit. So hopefully everyone can see it. Here it is, right on the homepage. I'm simply on KDE's homepage, Parent and Family Connection Hub. Let me move my meeting pieces here. There we go. So I can scroll. I just want to show you, we do have a graphic. We have just a blurb about where this came from, and it came from the recommendations made from this council to KDE, and that there's just a host of information. As I mentioned earlier, as I've kind of shared this with various groups, we've had recommendations to include, and one of those was actually news releases and advisories web pages so that you can actually connect out and see legislative updates. So there's a couple ways to navigate this site. You can see on the left-hand side, we have these 4 subcategories at the moment. We have getting involved. We found that all of the things that we were looking for kind of fit really neatly under these 4. So we have getting involved, helping your child academically, support for diverse needs, wellness, and whole child supports. You can access all of the information that is contained under these umbrellas from that left-hand side or the buttons that we currently have here. So very quickly, I'll just show the getting involved. There's a blurb with links out to this particular Family Partnership Council. Also, the School-Based Decision-Making Council, like if parents are interested in getting involved in those type of ways. This is a very robust section, helping your child succeed academically. And you can see right here, we have chronic absenteeism. We link right out to some of those things that Lisa and Judy were referencing. Rhonda, this was to your point, like just helping with anxiety. So if I click on this guidance document, it really does help parents identify, because your parents are making an effort to get their child to go to school. But how do I know if this is anxiety or if I'm really sick? So here's a guide to help with what are the symptoms and who you could reach out to for help with those. When is too sick to go to school? I'm just going to walk you through this. This is really helpful for parents. Like, how do I know? Making that decision. The campaign, the chronic absenteeism, just how to calculate. There is a link in here, and in the interest of time, I'll just keep going. But Lisa mentioned it. There's a one-page document that parents can actually keep track of absences, and it's color-coded whether they're still in a great situation, and it would be green, and after so many they move into a yellow, like a cautionary number of absences, and then when they get into the red, which is really getting them into chronic absenteeism. And it's super, super easy. I think it's right here, as a matter of fact. Let's see if it'll go. Here we go. This is the one I'm referencing. This is a great one-page document that parents can put on the fridge or put in a child's folder, wherever they keep track of these things. But this can be a great visual to help them keep track. The family guides I talked about earlier too, and I'm not going to go through each of these. I'm just going to let you all have, at your leisure, you can kind of walk through here. This is what I was talking about, is I've shared with my community school folks just that this resource is out here. How do I read and talk with my child? How do we connect? How are we playing, count together, move together? There's all kinds of resources embedded in this section. Let's see, there's one more thing I wanted to highlight here. Those family guides that I talked about just by grade level, like how to talk about directly related to different standards. There's one for how do I talk to my child about 6th grade math, and that's the one that I've included in the PowerPoint that you can reference later. Like, what does that look like? And so there's a guide to student assessment. There's a guide to Infinite Campus, like how do they log in? How do they get hooked up? KET, there are things here from birth to the age of 5, like that are parent facing. These are things that will help your child, those legislative updates, all about open house. You can see here there's a read at home family plan. And then this is a great one. It's also available in English and Spanish. And it's just really about a guide to the standards. So what can I expect my 4th grade child to be learning this year? What can I expect my 2nd grade child? So there's one there all the way across. Our 3rd grade child. Let me go back. And then under support for diverse needs, this is also a robust section, and give it a minute to load. But this contains a lot of information for English learners and immigrants. So there's those pieces. There's a ton of information around Individuals with Disabilities Act. There's a lot of information that actually walks parents through what is that special education process. So if that's a brand new thing for them, this walks them through like what to expect, questions they can ask, how to be an advocate. There's the Parents and Family Rights website that has tons of information. This is available in several languages. There's the Kentucky Parent Guide for Special Ed. It really talks about what is an ARC, which is the Admission and Release Committee. There's a guide. The Parent and Family Toolbox, it has tons of information. Some of you are involved in these organizations. I know Rhonda mentioned KY Spin, just a host of those that help students with disabilities across the state. How to dispute a resolution process, what does that look like? We also have information for homeless and youth, which we call McKenty Bento. I go quicker if I go this way. And we currently have as our last section, wellness and whole child supports, excuse me. So we talk about family involvement and just different ways that families can become involved at different levels. There's the Family and Parent Toolbox, the Kentucky Collaborative. I belong to that group. I attend their meetings. There's always a lot of good information. Some of you may be familiar with CIPL, Commonwealth Institute for Parent Leadership. That links out to more information for that. The full service community schools, which I talk about a lot. It really is, a bulk of my work is in family engagement and how do we connect with the community to become more engaged with the school, just as Dr. Fletcher was talking about, just that collaboration with the community so that their voices are heard and the planning really meets their needs and not what we think they might need as the educator at that school. And so there's some great examples on the Family Partnership page about school success stories. This is a lot of work you can read about the bulk of what we're doing there. And then the whole school, whole child, whole community link. It gets you out, and that one has a ton of information, just as you would expect, about dealing with the whole child, not just academically, but nutrition, wellness. There's a lot of health information there. So I do anticipate this will be expanding as new resources are developed. And just a reminder, this came from your recommendation, but these are all parent-facing documents. And so when we were speaking earlier, and Rhonda, I think, well, Rhonda and Leah commented heavily on the CTE. I think we have a place here to maybe link out to some of those parent-facing things to help parent. You know, the goal of this was to help make information easier for parents to find at the state level. And then who do I connect with and where can I go? And so I just want to ask each of you, as you've looked, some of you may have found this already and kind of poked through it, but I wanted to let you know that it's here. I think I talked about it a little bit last time we met. But what things do you see that are missing? I want to show this to you real quick. This is what that family guide looks like. This is the example that I pulled up for 6th grade. Just talks about what your child's schoolwork will look like, how to help your child at home, questions you can ask your child, questions you can ask your teacher. I've had more people just be blown away that this resource is out here and they didn't know it was there. So I just want to make sure this is shared. And then what questions or comments do you have or other resources that you would like to see added to this hub? So I'm going to open this up to some conversation.
Marsha, I really appreciate everything that's on this site. And I have been looking at it as you've been talking through it, just to get in there and kind of see for myself. And I'll say, as someone who uses KDE's website a lot, like it seems more intuitive, but I think as a parent, that's a lot of text. And because it is so text heavy, if there's a way for us to create more subheadings, just bolder subheadings. I'm just thinking about when I go onto a website for the very first time, when there's a lot of information, I get really overwhelmed and I'm like, yep, I'm just going to have to come back to that. So as a parent, somebody who's used to using, web pages that are designed to just be super intuitive and just click here and I know where to go from there. Maybe just breaking out some of those pieces into pages on the left where it wouldn't be everything on the one page, it would be more of the sub pages.
Got it.
So just so they could find what they needed without having to look at so much information in one spot. That would just be my only recommendation, just kind of thinking as a parent coming to this page for the first time. But I love that we're starting to create a place where a parent doesn't have to be able to navigate everything on the website, but right there in the center, you can go there and then get what you need.
I love that suggestion because you could actually take each of those paragraphs. It is a lot of text. It's text heavy and it's a start and we've got it out there. But I think like each of those, I'll go back. Let me go back. So your whoops, wrong one. Oh, this will work. For example, this one's really text heavy. So you're saying possibly break this out into its own subpage. So it would be a whole lot easier to digest and have that also accessible under here, correct? And then a family guide. Something
right
along those lines. Okay.
Yeah,
that's a great suggestion. Yes. I love it. Any others? Thank you, Leah, so much. Is there anything you see that is missing from your perspective at this point? And I know I'm asking a lot because there's been a lot of information on our meeting today. Okay, so I'm going to take that we need to just kind of digest that and look it over. And Leah, I do appreciate that so much. Just sharing that first glance, because that is important from just what do I see and what is it when that first page from a parent's eyes. I just want to thank you all for hanging in there. I know we're 10 minutes over our normal time. I also want to just thank all of our presenters that are still with us for coming today. It's been a very insightful meeting. We had a lot of great information shared, a lot of questions. If you have any lingering questions or comments, please feel free to email me. You can reach me that way. I do my best to respond as soon as the email comes in, but I can't always do that. So I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. And I just want to thank all of our members for extending your terms until June of 2026. And so I think that's going to be very helpful as we move forward and transition for a school year by school year. So I think that's all I have for today, unless there's anything that's lingering. And so I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Someone come off mute and have a motion to adjourn?
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Leah. Can I have a second, please?
Second, Amy Nickerson.
Thank you, Amy. All in favor?
Aye.
Come on. Thanks.
Aye.
So thank you all very much. And so our next meeting, before I forget, it's on the screen, is November the 12th. And so I look forward to meeting with you again, and again, be thinking about your topics and let us know what you'd like to hear for that November meeting. Everyone have a great rest of your day. And I know the fall weather is kind of starting a little early, but it's kind of nice to see some pumpkins and things starting to emerge. So everyone, please go enjoy your time and get out and enjoy this weather. Thank you all.